Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Global Issues on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. It is really a pleasure for us to have in Alhikmat studio attorney Mr. Eric Bowman. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's really a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
And Mr. Eric is a man with a lot of experience, over 30 years plus experience in immigration law, serving the people here in the United States of America. He presently resides in New Jersey, and we are really fortunate to have him with us in Alhikmat studio with all this experience on immigration and the kind of cases that he has fought and the kind of things he has done in the field of immigration. Stay tuned. We're going to have a very educational discussion with attorney Eric Bowman, and that will definitely benefit you viewers because we got viewers worldwide, and immigration to America is something very international and very worldwide. So stay tuned as we continue this discussion with Mr. Eric himself. Yes, Mr. Eric. So tell us a little bit, what motivated you to get involved in immigration? I know I'm sending your brain more than 30 years back, right?
Sure. Well, it was an interesting moment. I've always been sort of worldly in the sense that I have my law degree, I have a political science degree also, and I have a African American studies degree as well. But so I've always been into, and I married a woman that was her family's from the Bahamas, so I was always in the Caribbean all the time. But it was at one point in time.
So you were born in New Jersey?
I was born in New Jersey.
Yes.
Right, yes. So at one time I was transitioning from New York, where I went to law school, down to Washington, D.C. And there happened to be a project that the American Bar Association and the American Immigration Lawyers Association was putting together down on the border. And I ended up meeting some people, and they say, are you interested in this? We need some attorneys down on the border defending the rights of, at that point in time, it was mainly Central American refugees who were fleeing the civil wars in Central America, and they were coming over the border from Mexico into Texas. And there's a huge detention center down there called Port Isabel Detention Center. And so I said, okay, I'm interested in it. And I went down to the border on this project, and it was just four of us, really.
The famous Mexican border.
The famous Mexican border, absolutely.
That we hear Mr. Trump talking all about.
Absolutely.
Good, and we're going to get into that conversation.
Okay.
We want to talk about Mr. Trump, President Trump, and the wall, that big, great wall.
All right.
I mean, I'm sure that our viewers will be interested to hear something about that.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, I will disturb you here and there in your conversation.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to be thinking like the audience. When you say something, what will be passing through their mind, and I'll probably ask those questions. All right?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So at that time, it was four of us. It was a Project Libertad in a sense, and it was at the border. We were in a little building, and I was defending every day the individuals who were caught at the border, doing bond hearings, change of venues, so that I can get them off to their, to their family members in New York, Miami, Chicago, etc.
Interesting.
So every day, 10, 20 cases.
And this is how many years ago?
This was in 1991.
Wow.
1991.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we did that, and I felt, well, I was a young attorney. I said, I like this. I like helping people, and it was fulfilling. It was fulfilling. And when I left there, I went back to Crystal City, Virginia, which is outside of Washington, D.C., and I created an immigration nonprofit organization, which was kind of funded by Church World Services at the time. And it was mainly focused on Haitians, actually, who were fleeing. They were coming over from Guantanamo. They called it Guantanamo Bay, boat lift, etc. And they were coming over to the United States when they were fleeing the revolution in Papa Doc or Baby Doc, in a sense, back in Haiti.
Right.
So there was thousands and thousands coming in. So they mainly hit here in Miami, but the other main aspect was that they were hitting the D.C., Maryland area. And so I was representing them there. Probably had maybe 500 Haitian clients at the time applying for asylum for them in the D.C. area. And mainly the Maryland Eastern Shore, because there was a lot of, we were able to obtain employment for them through all the farming operations and things of that nature on the Maryland Eastern Shore. So I represented them all for asylum. But then at one point, money dried up, because in the nonprofit world, it's what's the hot topic. So things kind of switched into AIDS at that moment, and when they switched into AIDS, then HIV/AIDS funding, then immigrant funding dried up. So at one point, Church World Services said, we have no more money for these projects. So I had to take that group and take it into a private practice that I opened up called the Immigration Law Center in Arlington, Virginia. And I grew that from a one-room office to a 3-city office, over the course of, say, 7 years before I left Virginia, over the course of 7 years. My first hire still works with me for all those years.
Isn't that interesting?
She works virtually for me from home now, but she still works for me. She's the first person I hired.
And what was the name of that company again?
Immigration Law Center.
Immigration Law Center. So you still exist under Immigration Law Center?
Correct. Yeah, officially we still exist under the Immigration Law Center. Yeah.
And that office is officially based in New Jersey?
Correct. Yep.
Immigration Law Center.
Right.
Wow, that is interesting.
Yeah, and we were in immigration, if you want me to continue, we founded some of the first cases. So we were the first law firm to do Violence Against Women's Act case, VAWA, under VAWA. We were the first one to do under VAWA in court, what they call suspension and deportation VAWA cases. We were the first ones to do that in the Virginia and which handled Washington, D.C. Immigration Court, as well as the Baltimore Court, because we had offices at that point in Alexandria, Virginia, Langley Park, Maryland, and Baltimore, Maryland. So we had 3 offices by 1998. We had 3 offices, and we also had a major case because we handled the first case for a client in the United States, a successful case for her to win a woman fleeing female genital mutilation.
Wow.
Matter of Kasinga case. So that was my case that came to me, and I ended up having to take it to the Board of Immigration Appeals, and we won it. And now it became a segment of immigration. Any woman fleeing female genital mutilation can automatically apply for asylum in the United States. Beforehand, they didn't meet the classification. They didn't meet the classification, and they would be denied. So in my case, that case became precedent.
Right. So that got you all involved into this immigration services because you just love to help people.
Right.
I think that is really interesting, and that's a good character. That's a good. I mean, when you talk of good characteristics, it's good to have that in your person's personality, the feeling to care for other people.
Right. Yeah.
Because I would want to believe that immigration services is such that if a person does not care for other people, you will not want to go the 9 yards to help other people.
Absolutely. You know, what happened at one point was that I had my youngest son was born in Alexandria, Virginia, and he was a preemie. So he was 3 months early. He was born 3 months early. And the doctor told my wife that, hey, you need to be in a drier climate because there's this virus in the air of any place that has this humidity that kills preemies, really.
Wow.
So at that point in time, my wife was like, okay, we're moving to Arizona at that time. And I tell you this because I left, I didn't want to leave, but I had to do it for the family. And I left my caseload, at that moment with an attorney, and an African-American attorney from West Africa who was doing immigration for a long time too as well. And I knew him well. And it's funny because all of my clients immediately called me back and said, Mr. Bowman, this guy is not you. This guy has no passion. He just wants money, money,
wow.
money. So they saw right through him very quickly that it was about money and that there was no concern in his heart to really help you, to fight for you.
Yeah, immigration, when you look at it, because people, already migrating, that's a need. It's a reason why they would migrate, whether it's for a career, it's a profession, education, whatever it may be. Just to have that heart and that feelings for someone will really motivate a person. Otherwise, it's like XYZ, you just won't care.
Right.
And do you come across that with judges, immigration judges?
Yes, I've had my time. What happens is that a lot of, at one point in time, especially in the 90s and early 2000s, a lot of the judges were former prosecutors. So they were former prosecutors for the government, and then they became judges for immigration. And they had this kind of tough-nosed, attitude that everyone's lying. Because maybe from their experience on one side, because there are a lot of people.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
There's a lot of people lying. There are. But so they believe everyone's lying. So therefore, no story is good enough. And there's a case, and I kind of could recall that, and I've done this many times. I fight.
So I like what you said there. Everyone is lying. You know,
Right.
it's the famous saying, everyone is guilty until proven innocent, right?
Right.
That's how people look at it.
Sure.
So in the eyes of some of these immigration judges,
Right.
it's like everyone is lying
Right.
unless proven truthful.
Right. Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
So, you know, this is important for viewers to understand how immigration officers think, or at least how most of them think. And I would think this is the same way some of the guys at the airports and at the borders
sure.
would also think. They just look at everybody as some false person
Right.
until they can prove something truthful and legal.
Right. And they attempt to catch you in a lie.
Oh.
They attempt to catch you in a lie. So you have to be smart enough not to start telling a story that you don't know the conclusion to, you know, or a statement of questions and you don't know what the final answer is yourself, because they'll say, well, that doesn't make sense. You just told me something different.
Oh my God!
Right.
So therefore, is that the reason why they ask you these interesting questions?
Absolutely.
Very simple. They will ask you something there,
Sure.
and if you get off the wrong track, you're gonna be in a mess.
Sure. It translates to, as I tell people, for even marriage interviews.
Yeah.
And they say, well, how did you meet your wife? And if you start down the line, oh, we dated and we went to the movies. Oh, never say I went to the movies.
Well,
Well,
why?
what movie did you take her to? Superman. She says Batman. Wrong. Now you've got an ex.
Wow.
So now they're starting to believe they're not together. It's not a real marriage. So you've got to make sure what you say that you and your wife at that point know what it is, or you don't mention it. It's not important. It's not important what movie you went to. What's important is I love her.
Yeah.
Right. And she loves me, no matter what age or disability, and because they can't deny that.
Yes.
And that's all it's about. My version of a marriage could be different than your version of a marriage, but if we love each other, we're married under immigration terms. Process me, give me my green card so I can leave.
So it's not about because you may just be right. She may probably remember Batman movie,
Right.
and you probably remembered Spider-Man.
Right.
And you could both be right,
Right.
but in the immigration officer's eyes,
Right.
you're lying
Absolutely.
because
Absolutely.
your story does not
Sure.
add up.
Yeah, I had someone say, oh, you call your best friend Shorty, she calls him Joseph. And she said, well, Shorty was there. She said, well, wait a minute. Your husband said Shorty was there. You said Joseph. No, that's the same thing. I call him by his, his given name, his birth name, and that's the nickname that he grew up on the streets with his friends.
Yes.
But they misunderstood. But that's an ex,
Immigration officers don't want to hear those kind of stories.
Right.
I like that. So, Mr. Bowman, I mean, a man like you with 30 years of experience, and I love that. I mean, you have this company called Immigration Law Center, and I'm sure you would have helped so many different people, huh? Virginia, New Jersey, and what other state were you based in?
Well, that was based there. When I went to Arizona, I actually, because remember I had to move those cases
Yes.
over and left at the last minute, I actually joined a firm actually in Arizona, and it was a different animal because we started representing the corporate side. So I was
Corporate
counsel
society.
Motorola, Intel, Microsoft, and we were doing engineers, doctors, scientists, researchers. So we ended up doing the other side of at that particular point in time, and that was out in Arizona.
So you were doing cases for these kind of immigrants that
Correct.
came to the United States on jobs and career, etc.
Correct. And we were doing probably 1,500, 2,000 cases a month. 7 attorneys, 45 paralegals. Yeah.
So with a man with your background
Sure.
and your experience, and I'm sure you must have met the toughest of judges around town.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You would have met all these kind
Sure.
of judges that would have blown your mind.
Right.
So what really motivated you to spend your time and share your experience and your knowledge and your services for Atlas Immigration Foundation?
Well, Atlas, I ended up hearing about Atlas and its director, Derek. Derek and I have had many conversations about what he wanted to develop here in the state of Florida with Atlas. And I thought it was a great idea. My view was always, how do we help as many people as we can? A lot of times I'm in detention centers, I'm in courtrooms, and no one has an attorney. There's statistics all across the board that, you know, if you don't have an attorney, you're going to lose your asylum cases, you're not going to be able to progress. And it's true, because the average person won't know what to do, what to say in court. So when Derek had this idea, hey, let Atlas grow here in Florida and let us represent the people who have no representation. And therefore I thought it was a great idea. After all these years, that's something that I wanted to definitely devote some time and attention to help people.
And in the early years, you had already founded and were part of a non-profit immigration services organization, right?
Yeah, I have over exactly what Atlas is doing for the public. I've done always in my entire lifetime. I've always gone to religious institutions and given free seminars and advice. I've done where they have a huge Haitian population in the city of Irvington, New Jersey. They gave me the whole city council headquarters, and for 1 week I sat there and I gave free consultations to anyone who had a question from the entire community or the surrounding communities. We have the knowledge that we have. Why not spread it?
Yes.
You know, I don't need to make money off it. Sometimes you got a question, but an attorney says, oh, come to my office, but give me $250 for the question. You know, I can give you that question. Right or wrong, I'm going to tell you, if there's something can happen, then I'm going to tell you that we can help you. And if we can't help you, then I'm saying if anyone says that they can help you, they're looking for your wallet or your purse, they're not going to be able to help you. Because I'm going to tell you the truth right from the beginning, you know.
So when you speak about detention center, tell us a little bit about what goes on there, because you mentioned a little while ago that there are times you're there, the judges are there, and these cases are there, people are there, and they got to face the judges, and they have no lawyers, they have nothing to do. What really goes on? Give us an example.
Well, if you don't have, what's going on is that each of these detention centers probably have about 10,000 inmates inside of them. So people don't realize how big that they are. So you're going to go inside of them, and they're going to have court every day. Even now during COVID, immigration court outside for non-detained persons were closed. But if you were detained, they were having court every day.
Oh.
You know, I had my last case for a detained person because was March 20th. Was my last case for a detained person, and you know, everyone was canceling cases, attorneys, and I said, wow, if I do that, then this young woman will sit here for who knows how long. She's already sat here for 6 months. It already took her 6 months to travel from Cameroon to the border in the United States to try to apply for asylum. Now, is she going to do another year? Maybe she's going to get COVID while she's detained. You know, all these thoughts, you know, go through her mind, but she had her case. I went in, you know, with our mask, you know, we do it with the mask on, and we have the hearings. And we won that day. I knew I could win her case also. You know? And we won her case, and within 48 hours, she was free with her family in Los Angeles, you know. And that was an asylum case for a Cameroonian refugee who traveled across the globe, in a sense, to get to America, stood in line at the border. Her number was 770. So she had to wait for 770 people in front of her at the border to tell their story and to see if they had a credible fear of persecution. She finally got her story told at the border. Then they arrested her. So you got a good story, you got a credible fear, and then you're arrested. You're detained in a real jail. Right. With all kind of people, criminal aliens, and refugees, whoever it may be with you. And you're sitting there waiting for your hearing, and you're pretty much in a situation where majority of the judges there will think that you are lying or everyone there is lying. Your case is going to go so fast when you're detained. You're going to have your hearing, your bond hearing, one day. To say within 1 week from the time you arrive, you will have a bond hearing. And if you don't have relatives and family here in the United States, you're not going to get out on bond. And if you have, in some cases now, back in the day, a bond was $500. A bond was $2,000. Maine was the highest bond. Last time I was in court for bond hearing, the bond was $20,000 for a person. You had to pay $20,000 to get out. Most refugees don't have $20,000. No. I was able to get a bond for my guy for $7,500 because of certain circumstances that had already started, because he was free and then was arrested, and he shouldn't have even been arrested. So I've got his bond down to $7,500. Most families don't even have $7,500 just to get him out of jail. And that's a cash bond, not a 10% bond. That's full cash.
Wow.
There's no 10%. So so most people won't get a bond anyway. It'll be denied. And if you're denied your bond, you don't get a chance to request a bond again for 6 months. But your case is going to be 30 days from now. Your hearing, your final hearing. Now, if you went to court right now in Miami, your case would be, if we were in court today, your next hearing for your final hearing would be 2023. 3 years away.
So you're going to be in jail?
Well, if you were in court in Miami and you were out, is what I'm saying, non-detained,
right, okay.
Your next hearing would be 3 years from now for your final hearing. If you're in jail, your next hearing is in 30 days or less.
Okay, okay. So generally speaking, an attorney like you with that sort of experience in the immigration world, I would say immigration field, immigration world, a person got to go and face a judge. As long as someone like you represent them, what are the possibilities for them to not be deported? You were mentioning something like that before we came on the show, that as long as a genuine attorney takes that case and speak to the judge, what are their possibilities of not having to be deported right away?
Oh, 100%.
Oh.
100%.
So you're saying as long as there is a lawyer who can come and defend this person, you can put them in a category that they will not get deported right away, right?
Correct, correct.
And then they may just get off the hook and everything will be...
Yeah, because the key is that if they have a hearing 3 years from now, all right, anything within that 3 year period of time could change their case. The laws could change. They could have their time in America could go from 1 year to 10 years. We have then cancellation removal defense. They could get married, so we can go back and say, oh, he's married now to a U.S. citizen. We have a different process. A number of things could occur during that period of time. So you want to be out and you want to be free. And you're working and taking care of your family.
Yes, yes. So as long as you have the right lawyer in this immigration field, you see what I'm saying?
Correct.
You are more or less 99.9% set to go, huh?
Well, set to extend your time as far as your cases and have a better shot at winning your cases. Not that you're going to win. Sometimes I have to tell a client, look, more than likely we're going to lose because maybe you've got a criminal background of some sort. It's just not going to happen. However, based upon the law, your case in the time frame is going to take 3 to 5 years. So now with me, we can make these arguments, we can make these appeals because there's certain things, fact scenarios that we can argue that can get you that 5 years in America working, taking care of your family, versus if you went in there by yourself, more than likely you're going to be ordered to leave the United States in 30 days or deported physically.
If you don't have a legal representative, huh?
Correct.
Wow. So tell us about this $500 situation, this deposit or to retain legal services or with Atlas that you were talking about before we went on the show.
Sure, absolutely. Well, what happens is a lot of it's been based upon the mission of Atlas and my sitting down with Derek and also what my experiences were. And as I shared my experiences that, hey, I'm in detention centers all the time, and the gentleman, while I'm there, just say, I may be the only attorney. There may be 100 other people waiting for their hearings. And I start talking to them. I said, guards, can I talk to them? And I just start sitting, round table. And why are you here? What's going on? What are you going to do today with the bond hearing? Da, 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 da. And they tell me their stories. And I said, well, wow, you shouldn't be deported for this. There's laws that will protect you. I don't have an attorney. My wife's out there trying to, get money together. They want $5,000, $5,000, $3,000, $4,000, $8,000, $12,000, etc. And I'm thinking, wow, I'll do it for free right now if you retain me later on, and I know you will because no one's going to walk in this door and help you the way I'm going to help you right now. So I believe in you, and whether you do or not, I did a good deed. I'm fine. I feel good about it.
Right.
So, but everyone has $500. They may not have $5,000, but everyone can put together $500. Even if they don't have it, their sister, their brother, their cousin, their neighbor, someone can go $100 here, $50 here, and they can put a family pool together and come up with $500. And I said, Derek, this is what we want to offer people because they can come up with that. If we represent them and say, if you have $500, we will take your case, then they will all have representation. Maybe the gentleman just needs to get out of jail, out of detention, so he can get back to work. Because they have jobs, and they're doing, whether it's cash under the table, so they can come up with a monthly payment to pay you.
Yes.
So the mission of Atlas, kind of this new campaign that we're on, is that for $500 deposit in your case, in some cases it may be settled for the whole 500 because maybe they just need a simple procedure, then we would take your case.
So, Mr. Eric Bowman, we have been talking for approximately 25 minutes now.
All right.
Very interesting. So we got to go on a short break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'd like to let our viewers know some specific cases that, for example, just for the benefit of our viewers, a person is experiencing this, a person is experiencing that. How can they benefit from Atlas Immigration Foundation? Because I'm sure viewers probably wondering who or what is Atlas and how can they benefit, because our viewers are worldwide, and there are people somewhere in the world who got some family, some relative here in the United States of America who would be having some kind of immigration service.
Sure.
And we want to talk a little bit after we come back from the short break as to how they can contact Atlas, and whatever case they have, if they can present that case to Atlas, and if Atlas can help them.
Very good.
And meaning, with your experience,
Sure.
with your 30 years plus immigration services experience as an attorney, with that kind of background, because I mean, America is based on immigration.
Correct.
It's a powerful part. It's a pillar of the United States of America.
Absolutely.
So stay tuned when we come back after the short break. We will continue our conversation with attorney Eric Bowman, and we'll learn a lot as you have been listening from his experience, and we're talking to the man himself, listening directly from the horse's mouth, as they would say, on ways and benefits around immigration services and how people can benefit and how they can keep on the right track. So stay tuned until we come back. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Allah gives hikmat, wisdom, to whomsoever He wills. And whomsoever is given wisdom is certainly given a lot of good. Only the people of understanding will benefit from the reminder. Tune in to Alhikmat TV for khutbahs, lectures, and Islamic reminders. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to Global Issues on Alhikmat TV 24/7 online. So we are continuing our conversation with attorney Eric Bowman, a man with over 30 years of experience in the immigration field, an attorney who has helped thousands and thousands of people in the United States of America in his field of immigration services. So those of you who have just tuned in, stay tuned, because you're going to benefit a lot. You may probably not need some direct immigration services, but I'm sure you have a friend, a relative, someone somewhere in the world that can call Atlas Immigration Foundation and can benefit from the experience, the knowledge, and the services of attorney Eric Bowman. So as we continue, Mr. Eric, sir, and
Yes.
a pleasure again to have you in Alhikmat studio. We ended on the note of helping people, assisting people in the immigration field from Atlas Immigration Foundation, or whatever, maybe from Immigration Law Center, whatever may be the case.
Sure.
Tell us, like, for example, I'm just saying, what case a person came to the United States of America, they're getting a hard time to get their work permit, they came in legal, for example, they came in with a visitor's visa, their time went beyond their 6 months, something like that.
Sure,
They got, what do you, out of status. What do they do? How do they call you for help? They
Well-
want to work, they want to live in the United States of America.
Right.
Do they need to get married? They don't need to get married, or they are married? Tell us.
Sure. Well, the always the easiest way in the United States for an immigrant, especially one who may have entered with a visa, they came in as a tourist, they came in on a student visa, F1 student visa, etc. The best way for them to immigrate to America is marriage. It's always been marriage, right? Always been marriage. So if they're able to find a husband or a wife, etc., who's a U.S. citizen to marry, then they can apply for permanent residency here in the United States. So we get a lot of that in the sense that the person's here on a tourist visa, they fall in love, they want to stay in the country, and they immigrate through. And there's a difference if they're illegal, meaning walked across the border to the point, or if they are actually came in a tourist or a F1 or some other visa legally and were admitted, they can then adjust here in the United States. They're going to go through a process where they file their paperwork here in the United States for the visa and the green card application. And then they're going to be interviewed here and say if it's Miami, in the Miami district office, and there's going to be an interview. Normally, when you file your application, within 90 days, you'll receive a work permit and a travel permit. The work permit, now they put it on the same they put it on the same card. So the bottom of the card would say travel authorized. So that person who came in on a tourist visa, overstayed, now has married a U.S. citizen. We apply for their applications, which we can do through Atlas. They will receive their work permit and travel permit within 90 days. They can immediately start traveling around the world. They're good to go in and outside of the United States immediately.
Right.
Their interview is going to take maybe 6 to 8 months or longer, maybe 12 months given the COVID delays and so on, to have an interview here in the United States. At the interview, they're going to go through really a 15 to 20 minute kind of an interview questioning. And it's mainly to see, have you been in the military? Do you know guns and so on? All these questions, have you been arrested, etc. And to make sure that they have the right, that they are in a sense in love, and that they have some sort of identity documents, which they would, because they would have their work permit. I always recommend to the couple, make sure that your driver's license that you just got, or you know, is the same. Meaning, your address is 100 Broadway. Make sure your wife's address on there is 100 Broadway. Because the first thing you do, they ask before they swear you in, can I see your driver's license?
Right.
Right then and there, if yours says Tampa and hers says Miami, we've got a problem. Because they now are concerned that maybe you guys don't live together.
Interesting.
So make sure you have that, because then you started it off wrong.
Wow.
if you don't have it. I normally attend these interviews. A lot of attorneys don't go with their clients to the interviews. I go with their clients, and I just sit back in the back, and I make notes, just in case any questions that I know, because I'll know their case, you know, I'll know it like the back of my hand. If they said anything wrong, again, the movie thing.
Yes.
You know, if they say anything wrong about the address. Because what happens if you say something wrong and they suspect that it's not maybe a marriage, in a sense, for whatever reason, they can then call you back in for another interview. And at that next interview, they're going to separate the two of you. They're going to have a camera pointed at your wife for an hour and ask her questions, and they're going to have a camera pointed at your husband in a different room and ask them the same questions.
Right.
And this is where they know if you know each other, if you live in the same house. So how I prepare my clients, and a lot of attorneys don't do it this way, and I end up getting their clients later on when they actually say, hey, we've got a problem, I got to go for this another interview. My attorney doesn't even want to go, because a lot of attorneys don't even want conflicted cases. They just want simple things to make their money. So can you go, can you help me? But I prepare my clients no matter what, right from day one, every client. Be prepared for these questions.
Right.
Where do you live? Oh, apartment number what? 102. Is that a first floor or second floor? Is it a walk-up? Yes. Is there a knocker on the door, or is there a doorbell? Okay, sure. There's a doorbell, okay, or there's a knocker, okay, great. You go inside. What do you go inside? Tell me the floor plan. Okay, tell me the kitchen. Stainless steel appliances, white appliances, black appliances? Tell me. You need to know all those aspects, because they're going to ask you during that interview, well, what color is the refrigerator? And if you don't know the color of the refrigerator and you supposedly lived there for 3 months or 3 years, then they're going to say wrong, and they start listing these things that you got wrong in order to try to deny you.
Right.
Right. So I make sure that they're both prepared for that. Even, do you drive? Where do you park? Garage? On the street? Oh, your husband catches the bus. What bus does he catch? Oh, bus 28 to go to work. Okay. And he walks to the corner and then catches it? Okay, great. What day does he get paid? Okay. Because most husband and wives know when they get paid, when their spouse gets paid. So they know. You know, what's the rent for the apartment? You know? And if there's questions to it, and I just had a complicated case in New York that an attorney didn't want to do, and they told the woman, hey, you might as well go and go underground. And I said, go underground? Who would tell you? What attorney would tell you this?
Right.
Meaning, like, stay illegal, go underground and start over again. And I said, okay, I'll take the case. We got the husband and wife together, and I said, look, we're going to go over these questions, but it's not just about the questions. It's because the husband says, well, I give my wife the money and she pays the bills. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Just tell her every week when I get paid, I give her $750 or whatever it is. Be honest about it. They feel that they've got to cover that up because the attorney said, hey, you need to have a joint checking account and so on. He said, well, we don't have a joint checking account, or I've got bad credit, or this and that, so we don't have certain things that we have, or the apartment was in my wife's name before I moved in. And in this case, he had a legitimate case, is that his father was dying. His father had a small restaurant that he had to oversee. It was a 45-minute commute between there, or an hour commute between there, depending upon traffic.
Right.
And that he also had a sister who had a son, and the father wasn't there, so he acted like kind of the father for the little boy. So at times he had to kind of stay outside of the city and take care of his father, his brother, family matters and business matters. So he didn't see his wife every day. So when he went for the questions for the interview, well, what did you watch last night? And if you say, oh, I watched CNN or something, well, tell me what was the story? What was the subject matter? What happened? Or what movie was it? And the attorney wanted him to do that sort of thing. And I said, no, tell the truth. And when we went for the interview, tell the truth. I had to do this. I was out and outside taking care of my family matters. I didn't come to the house last night. I met her this morning, her and an attorney at Starbucks, and we walked over here to the federal building.
The key thing is to keep on the truth line.
Keep on the truth, right. Right, you don't have to, because I get a lot of people who, maybe for business, oh, well, I got transferred, I'm in Texas working in IT, but my wife's in Miami, but we're still together. There's still love there.
Yeah.
This is funny. I'm in here, I got promoted, and I had to go take the job. But a lot of people think, oh, I've got to be in the household, I've got to sleep there last night. No, tell the truth. The issue is love.
Right.
And they can never debate that.
So this is all about getting your green card status.
Right.
Now, someone gets married. Now, that couple gets married,
Sure.
and they have lived for 3 years, right? Is that how it works? Before you get you apply for citizen?
You get a conditional green card, good for 2 years. At the end of 2 years, 90 days before the expiration, you have to indicate that we're still together. You follow an application. We're still together, and here's new mortgages, rental slips, utility bills, etc.
Right.
Or I'm asking for his signature to be waived because we're separated or we're divorced. But I have enough evidence from before to show that it was a good faith marriage.
Right.
Now this is tricky for a lot of people because they say, well, what's the evidence that I need to prepare this in case I'm not with my wife, or if I'm filing for it to show that we're still together.
Okay, so a person gets that and now have their 3 years and they're ready to apply for citizenship.
Correct.
Any complication with the citizenship now after they have been married for 3 years, good marriage, everything?
The most important thing with that is that if it's a good marriage and they're still married, that he's filed his taxes. Okay, and then that he hasn't left the United States. I always tell people, if you've got a green card, and if you're planning to be citizen, then you should spend time here in the United States. But if you're not planning to be a citizen, then when you travel, make sure you don't stay outside of the United States for more than 6 months. No more than 180 days. Because if you do, it gives the guy at the border the right to question you. If you don't, and you come in every 6 months up under that number, you can just come right into the United States at the border. He's not going to question you. He's going to say, oh, welcome back, Mr. Bowman, thank you. And you just come in.
Right.
But if you stayed over that 180 days, he has the right to question, did you abandon your stay, your residence in America? And he can start asking you about your rent, where you live, how long you've been there, who's in the apartment. He can begin asking those questions. So always travel back in with 180 days if you have a green card.
Right. So the husband and wife complication for citizenship does not really create an issue again after you have lived for 3 years.
Right, as long as you've been paying your taxes, because they're questioning.
So now they're more about your taxes.
Correct.
They're not worried about proving if you're husband and wife anymore.
Correct.
Because even if a person happens to divorce after 3 years.
No. Well, if you gain your green card through your spouse, you can become a citizen within 3 years.
Right.
If you have not gained it through that, then it's 5 years for anyone else to get their citizenship in the United States.
Right. But my question is, if after 3 years, before you get your citizenship,
Right.
you and your wife divorce,
Okay.
does that affect your citizenship?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. That was the question.
Yes, not at all. Yeah, you're a full-fledged citizen, so that's fine.
You
Long
mean-
as it was legitimate marriage. Under Donald Trump, he's created a naturalization unit to denaturalize people.
What is that now?
So he's created a unit of attorneys that go back in and look at cases to see if you lied. So, or misrepresented, meaning that the marriage was fraudulent in the beginning. Because, because a lot of people pay people to marry them. And sometimes that relationship goes sideways before the interview. I can tell you hardship stories for people who've lost everything that they've owned, furniture, assets, the whole thing, by someone that they thought was going to help them get a green card.
Wow.
And still never showed up at the interview for the green card.
Yes.
And so you have that, but you also have people who write in and say it was a fraudulent marriage, and therefore they go back and they can look at that and take away your citizenship.
So under this new law by President Trump, they can take back your citizenship if your marriage was not authentic.
Right.
But you were saying if the marriage is authentic
Right.
and they have lived together for 3 years, and then they got an official divorce, normal, the person can still go ahead and apply for their citizenship.
Correct, absolutely.
Excellent. Now tell us a little bit, we got just a 5-10 minutes again. Tell us a little bit about the religious aspect, because I have always learned that religion and missionary work in the United States of America has always played a major role. Marriage and missionary work. So what is that all about for the benefit of our viewers here? Someone wants to get into the United States of America to live, to study, to get married, or whatever it may be, and they want to come through the religious process. They are religious. They have religious qualification.
Right.
They want to go through their church.
Sure.
For example, what?
Absolutely. In the 90s, I used to actually create churches, for pastors and ministers in order to build their flock in the community, but also they were able to bring in a number of different pastors or religious workers or missionary work in a sense. And I've done a ton of even spiritual organizations that are not quasi-churches, but kind of spiritual organizations. They qualify for the same thing. So it's a great resource in a sense for actually to build a church community, to build a community, to build a maybe even an educational school and academy, because you can bring in scholars from abroad who are coming in.
That's my point.
Right, absolutely. So you have the...
And just to cut you again,
Sure.
so Atlas Immigration Foundation, someone abroad wants to come to America and come through a church, or the marriage case you spoke about, they can all contact Atlas Immigration Foundation.
Absolutely.
And you will be able to guide them, Atlas Immigration will be able to guide them and help them through this case, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
Atlas will be able to represent them in any immigration matter. It doesn't matter if it's marriages, religious worker, if it's deportation, if it's employment-based, we can handle that too as well.
Right. So just for the benefit of our viewers again, you were mentioning, sorry to cut
Sure.
you there,
No.
on that person wants to come and get a church to sponsor them here.
What's so wonderful about the church or religious institution is that once we have an official church, so it's a IRS designated as a church, as a religious institution.
501c3.
501c3.
Okay.
So it's an official church. So there's no issues with that. And then it has its mission statements in order to be a church. It would have all that. And they say, hey, I want to hire this pastor, or I want to hire a missionary. Now, missionary is very interesting because pastor, we already know what his religious duties will be for the church, pastor, minister, etc. All right. But for missionary, it's interesting. I can bring in gardeners. I've done that. I've brought in gardeners for the church because I'm giving my life as a missionary to the church.
Yes.
So, and what are you going to do for the church? Because it's going to be the question.
Your mission is to be the gardener.
My mission is to be gardener, to
Like
make sure the church, the institution is beautiful.
Yes.
I'm the gardener. I'm the carpenter. I'm going to build more rooms on the church. I'm going to, whatever role it may be, you can actually come, as long as you've given your life to the church, you can do that. Now, what's good about the connection, so there's no concern, I always try to say, let's have a connection. Let's say if you're bringing them in from a certain country, so let's make sure that we actually create a sister institution, affiliate institution in that country, so we can already indicate that the person is a member of that same church in another country. So there's always the question, well, when did you become a member of that church? Because some people may try to, get around the rules and they're not really a member of the church. So we're able to say, no, we have a sister organization that we started in this country around the world, and that they've been members there, and now we need them to come to the United States to help grow our organization or our church here in the United States. They can be missionaries, they can be cooks, they can be scholars to teach the kids in the school. I think that's a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, because I see that being a big thing. I mean,
yeah.
the religious world and
Sure.
the kind of services that people can afford, because labor is so expensive in America.
Sure.
And churches in America, and I mean, I've been seeing a lot of that. Churches in America can benefit a lot by getting people from a foreign country who can come and work for 10 times less
Sure.
than an American citizen would work for. And economically, it will definitely help the church.
Yeah, by law, the only thing the church needs to offer is room and board. You don't even have to offer a salary, and if you do, you can just offer, say, a small stipend if you do. But room and board is all they're looking for. Yes, I show that they're going to be board. The church has dormitories, or we have a few members of the church have homes, and this is where they're going to stay, and we're going to provide board for them. And as long as the church has some sort of a budget that is realistic, that is a real
So the
church.
church got to show their IRS budget.
Well, yeah, we
Because a 501c3 doesn't normally have to file tax, right?
Right. So we don't need to show the budget, but we just show projections. I'll handle all of that for the church to show what the church normally brings in, so that the church is truly in operation.
Or you need to show what kind of income the church brings in, what kind of cash flow they got.
Especially when we say we're going to hire a pastor and we're going to give him a minister and we're going to give him a certain sort of salary, then we need to show that. But we also kind of show it just in the larger amount, just to kind of project that this is what the church is doing, so that they can understand. Because I want to write about the church. I want to tell you what we're trying to do for the community, so you can believe the truth, and therefore you know why we need these individuals.
And I suppose the bank statement,
yes.
the kind of the years of operation
Very
from
important.
the IRS point of view, and
Sure.
all that legal technicality.
Absolutely. Or if you own your building, if you're saying he's coming to be a carpenter in your building, to expand it, to build houses, to build whatever it may be, that you own your building. I mean, it's just good to answer the questions before they asked of you, so that you don't get a document that says we want more evidence.
So how sound is that nowadays? The church services, what I mean, you see what I'm saying, as far as being effective to get someone sponsored?
It's very effective. And the most important thing to think about, though, because I'm asked those questions a lot, because I talk to churches all the time, is that make sure you're just not running an immigrant mill.
Oh, yes.
Right. That's the key, because they're going to be able to see who may be because what's going on, they come in on visas and then they're changing over to green cards. And so if the guy's just coming trying to get to America, he's never going to change over, or his visa, his 5-year visa, as an R1, meaning that he's just coming he's not a green card holder, but he's coming here to work for 5 years. He just disappears.
Right.
So then you've got a bad history with immigration.
Yes.
So make sure you filter out who's there and make sure that they remain members of the church, and even if they later on get green card and start building their own family and so on, that they remain associated, just for the church records and statistics.
And the key thing is to be genuine. You're not lying.
Right.
And you belong to a church in your country, or you see what I'm saying? And then you have another church sponsoring. So, and Atlas can work around all of this.
Absolutely.
To help people, as long as you're on the straight, right track.
Right, and they can come over with their wife and kids.
Oh yes,
and
the R1, they give you the entire family to come across,
entire family
right?
can come, correct. So
That
your
is
children
interesting.
can go to school in America, get their education, and start developing their own life, which is the benefit for a lot of people. Want to make sure it's for the children.
So basically, we just got about 2-3 more minutes
Sure.
again. So we touched on the marriage thing, the religious aspect of people that Atlas can help, and of course through your expertise and your services and your knowledge and experience in the immigration world. What about a person wanted to come to study here now?
Well, study is
How could Atlas help a person, just a person back in another country would love to come and join an institution here and become a student here, and then finally live, get married, and go on?
Sure. Well, the students thing is Atlas can provide them with a list of a lot of universities here in the United States that will issue the I-20 document, because a student needs to be issued an I-20. Now, Atlas could work with your institution here and create their own secondary institution that can bring in foreign students. We can do that and get a service number, and now we'll be able to issue students to come to your learning center here.
Yeah.
We'll be able to do that. But the students will be issued an I-20 document. With that I-20 document, they appear at the U.S. consulate, which therefore would then give them an F-1 visa. When they enter the United States, they're going to have an F1 visa, and the I-94 card, meaning the entry document, is going to say D/S, duration of status. So they're good to stay in the United States until they graduate from that institution. The key thing that foreign students, this is where they get mixed up at, is that when they transfer, if you transfer out of that institution, University of Miami, and you're going to go to now Florida Atlantic University, you only have 90 days, and that officer at that school has 90 days to transfer your number. And if they don't transfer that number to that other school, you could fall out of status.
Okay.
So that's happening. We get a lot of students, like right now we're fighting a case where, because of COVID, the person, in a sense, it's all online, but the person transferred from, say, another non-immigrant status. They were going to school, they turned 21, so they fall off of their parents' E2 visa, which is what it was, a treaty investor visa, and they have to now, at 21, get their own visa. But they were attending that school, and now they're transferring to their own F1 visa. So that school issues an I-20, but then COVID happens, and now things got kind of backed up.
Interesting. This is phenomenal. I'm sure that our viewers out there worldwide would have definitely benefited from your education, your experience, your knowledge, because I think those are the kind of questions that people pay lawyers thousands of dollars and they can't even get these answers.
Absolutely.
They cannot get these answers you gave.
Yeah, a lot of lawyers don't have. Some of them are so new, and some of them are so pigeonholed in a certain area of law that they process, area of immigration law that they don't know. We've been doing this, so my wealth of knowledge is available through Atlas. We've been doing this for over 30 years. We've gone from cases from deportation to corporate cases, marriages, family reunification cases, asylums, tons of asylum work. So we're able to answer any questions that you may have. Again, we also are working with, especially Atlas, with groups of individuals who are women who have been sexually trafficked. We're helping some nonprofits here in Florida with representation of those individuals. We also with violence against women, VAWA, which is violence against women who are married here in the United States, but their husband is holding them more of hostage. And it could be a man also. I've had male cases, and this is what people, right, where the woman is the abuser, the U.S. citizen abuser, and holding the man, kind of hostage. I'm not going to file for your green card unless you do this, bring me all your money, pay back taxes, all these sort of things. I get these. So men and women can be the abuser, but we are representing those individuals also with those cases, and both of those lead directly to green cards.
I think this is really unique, and it's very interesting because America and all these people from all over the world, immigration services are so very important, and Atlas Immigration Foundation are very fortunate that they can touch on your resources and get you to offer your skills and your experience and your knowledge. That is a blessing. It's not just an opportunity. I think more than an opportunity, it's a blessing. It's a favor from God that at last can have someone like you who can share your knowledge and experience to benefit people, because you're totally right. There are a lot of people out there, it's all about the money, and they don't care about the clients, and they just don't care at all. Right. And with all these problems happening in the world, people like you are really God-gifted, and have been placed there by God to help a lot of people.
Yeah, we are trying to help. That's what we're here for, and that's our mission, and that's my mission too as well. So.
And I'm really blessed, and I feel we are blessed, and our viewers on Alhikmat TV are very blessed to have someone like you come on this show, Global Issues, because immigration is very global.
Sure, absolutely.
And our viewers can benefit, and I'm sure now they can just Google or just search Atlas Immigration Foundation, right? Let's see, what is it here? Yeah. Atlas Immigration Foundation. Just go check the website, Atlas Immigration Foundation. And I want to repeat it, Atlas Immigration Foundation. You just Google it, just check it out, atlasimmigration.org.
Yep.
Whatever you can have. Get questions, and you have questions for our attorney, 30 years plus experience, Mr. Eric Bowman. Whatever under the sky, you can channel your questions through Atlas and get the answer from Mr. Attorney Eric Bowman, and I'm sure he will be at your service. Atlas will be at your service, and we can all help each other.
Absolutely.
So we got a couple of seconds. What do we
Sure.
have to say as we conclude? We have been talking for almost 50 minutes now.
Well, I loved it. I loved the conversation. I love to come back again and talk about some other areas of immigration law that will be more direct for certain people and things that are happening now in the U.S. today, and the current President Trump, because we didn't go too much into Trump
I
today.
know, I really wanted to do that. We had to talk about Biden, we had to
Right.
talk about Trump,
Correct.
we wanted to talk
Right.
about that 245I
Correct.
that President Clinton had set in place.
Sure.
We wanted to talk about DACA, the Dreamers,
Right.
all these high-tech immigration laws in the United States of
Right.
America. We did not even get into that.
Part 2. Coming
Part
back.
2, I think we're going to have to do that.
Sure.
We're going to have to do that because we touched on the grassroots things
Right.
that people can benefit from at last and from
Sure.
your experience. But we should get into some of these more high-tech immigration laws about
Sure.
DACA, Dreamers Act, and whatever you call
Sure.
it.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk to you about the lottery. The
Yes.
lottery system.
Right.
So that's going to be part 2. We will
Okay.
have to make an
All right.
arrangement to get you back on this show.
Sure.
All right?
Absolutely. I'm available.
has been a
The
pleasure.
Atlas are here.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Sure.
It was a pleasure again to have Mr. Attorney Eric Bowman with us in Alhikmat Studio to talk about immigration, something you don't normally get from immigration officers. So always stay tuned to Alhikmat TV 24/7 online, and any questions you have, contact us at Alhikmat TV or just go and check out atlasimmigration.org so you can benefit from the immigration services. Any questions under the sky, inshallah, God willing, and our experienced attorney with 30 years plus in the immigration field can be of you. At your service with whatever help, and you will learn the 9 yards after that and how you go ahead to get the benefits from Atlas Immigration Foundation. Thank you very much, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.